Yeah, go ahead. All right, legislative committee meeting Thursday, June 22nd, 2023. Currently in attendance is Mayor Southard, Councilperson Martin, Councilperson Wolf. I know it's camera. But you started laughing before I even had a chance to mess it up. Councilperson, because he said present, and then you started laughing, and so I waited. I was waiting for the applause to time it down. Councilperson Camera and Councilperson Bruger. Let's check out tonight's legislation, as we always start with. A couple here that are sort of last minute-y. In particular, 07-2023 is an appropriation looking to be a $51,000 increase. As I understand it, this is just switching from one fund to another, so it can be used for the Jordan Road Sewer.
Correct.
Anyone have a problem skipping readings and getting it done? Moving on, Resolution 2023-20. This is just the first draft of the tax budget. This is just a first reading for people curious.
I think that's the second reading.
Oh yeah, June 20th. Oh my goodness, God, my summer is disappearing.
I know.
I was really hoping this was still June 8th.
I know, right?
That draft was sent out to everyone by our fiscal officer today for everyone to read. Anyone have anything at this point they want to bring up on it?
It's a real barn burner.
Alrighty, moving right along then. 2023-23. This is what we've been talking about for a little bit, or at least we looked at last time. This is the $45,000 to put electricity. And what are all the places, real quick, Mayor, so we can get it down there again, that we're putting electricity?
Over by the shelter and the 3 ponds that are in the new section, with the exception of the hidden pond. So the lily pond, the black sycamore pond.
We don't
and
need to mention the hidden pond, no one knows it exists.
There you go. So the other 3 ponds.
Yeah, the three ponds in the new area.
And this does not include hooking up fountains or anything like this. This is strictly getting
This is getting
electricity
electricity there. We look at it about 45 grand. Of course, the main lakes already have power on them. That's why they have bubblers.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the legislation we have.
And just an FYI, I think the one has the 51,000, but there was 2 lines on there. There's a $1,000 grant, or there's $1,000 for an
Other
AED.
expenditure is $1,000
Okay,
for the
just-
police department.
Yeah, so all that is we got a safety grant for $1,000, and it's just so we can spend it on an AED. So again, it's just moving money around. It's not.
Gotcha.
So, and again, that's just for you guys to
Are
know.
we spending on an AED, or was the grant to buy an AED?
The grant is a safety grant that we can use it towards anything we want. We chose to use it towards an AED grant because we don't have one.
I just saw something on the news the other day that something passed, and maybe that was
You
I think that was K-12 in Ohio were getting
Correct.
money for AEDs, not municipalities.
So the thing that we're looking at is, and this is gonna be for the future, so without going too far in depth in that, if they're requiring that for those, we don't have one at the pool, we don't have one in the cruisers, we don't have them in a couple different places, and we would like to do that, so that maybe we're looking into grants to getting some AED units.
Awesome. Also at the meeting, of course, is Councilperson David McNamara. Took me half a second to remember the last name. I'm terrible at this.
It's all good if you do.
Okay.
In the buildings. We'll show you probably downstairs.
Mm-hmm. They're little do-it-yourself defibrillators.
Yeah.
They're in all the
Yeah.
all the schools have them.
AED.
AED,
Yeah,
yes.
sorry, yeah.
So easy to use.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's everything we're doing tonight. I'm sure you looked at the packet, David. Was there any of those 3 legislations or passing them in as emergencies that you had a problem with? We just went through all 3 of them.
Seem reasonable.
Okay.
Can I ask what it says on there for the AEP? I mean, here's all I'm gonna.
Right?
AED.
No, this is AEP. No,
Oh,
this one's
for
the
the
AEP.
AEP. What is
Are
it you're
we-
looking for?
Well, it's I'm leaving it completely in your guys' hands. We can't move forward with getting the electric installed we can't move forward on the fountains until we have the electric installed.
It is currently, tonight is our second reading of it.
Correct. So obviously, I would like to get moving on that project.
Yes, we're
However,
looking to waive,
Didn't know.
I believe the last discussion we had on it was, since we can't do it right away anyway, we don't need to waive a reading, and we can always waive the 3rd reading was, I believe, a discussion that was already had on this. Can anyone back me up on that?
Yes, I remember us having a discussion.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah, so we are fine to waive the third reading, and move on. That brings us, there we go. I'm gonna pull up JP Martins, I'm sure, and Eric Fisher, of course, is with us as well this evening, who was probably gonna wanna talk about the code. I'm gonna start us off with what JP emailed out earlier today, since we did have someone who brought something up, and I love it when people bring things up. Who wants to keep on page 127, E, I'm not sure what code it's under. Motor vehicle repair and service, no person shall perform or conduct any motor vehicle service as an occupation or business. And then removing, including but not limited to, serving, repairing, assembling, wrecking, modifying, restoring, painting, or otherwise working on a motor vehicle as defined by revised code 4.5, blah, 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 on any residential lot or in any private garage. So JP, why pull out the second part?
We don't need it. I think we do. We need it because those are examples of things that are working on a motor vehicle. And so what if someone says, I want to paint my car in my driveway, right? And then we would have to argue whether painting a car is or isn't working on a motor vehicle, because you're not actually working on it, right? You're spraying something on it.
Let's not forget where this rule even started from in the first place.
But we haven't. So if we're going to
Right,
have
so let's remove
it,
it.
and the only point
Well, but if
is
you're-
that these things illuminate what we mean by working on, what we mean by motor vehicle repair.
I think Brian's point is, if you're going to keep E in, keeping the description makes sense.
Right.
I would say the argument it comes to, do we need to keep E in? And real quick, and I'll just finish my sentence, then we'll turn it over to Eric. And that's because for years, I used a really good guy off of Case Road, Case in Cleveland, who had a 2-car garage detached in his backyard and did my brakes, did a lot of stuff for a lot of years. Just as he had a discount at Napa, you'd bring him the parts, he'd charge you, and it was wonderful. Eric, you were gonna chime in.
Yes, sir, appreciate it. So, if you remember that this particular clause was put in by P&Z after a lot of discussion on a number of concerns you brought up. And it's in there specifically to not allow working on a motor vehicle as a business. So it says occupational business, occupational business, business
Yeah, we
occupation.
don't want someone
So-
having minus.
Right, and so specifically, that's the reason that they didn't want working a business, like we have out in Cleveland Avenue, in the middle of the neighborhood. So there's a restriction on the residential use of that. That's what it is.
It clearly states that in the first sentence. Why do we also go on and on and on?
Hold up, why shouldn't it?
Hold up.
You're asking to strike something, so why should?
There's a definition, so now what you're saying is, so you don't like the definition that's supposed to, so that's a legal counsel, or Brady's testing, legal counsel looked at this, and what we wanted to do was institute a definition concerning what it is, so that specifies specifically what it is under the law. And there's a specific definition that goes back to ORC. So that's just legal items. You can ask legal counsel that on the meeting where we're having our discussion.
Okay,
So I don't think that's helpful.
we have kids in the neighborhood having lawnmowers in their yards. And I want to encourage that. I want people to, but that's, if you look under 451101, under the definition, bicycles, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we can clarify all of that with legal counsel. I'd like to have a
So-
wider discussion, because that's a
So-
wider discussion.
I would also say that as a point of policy, we don't necessarily want to encourage people to do small engine repair in their home.
I do.
Okay, you're wrong, but that's, because again, so there are safety
Hold on,
concerns.
stop, you're not letting me finish.
Go ahead.
Please, let me
Go
finish.
ahead,
I don't
go
like
ahead.
that, you're interrupting me, please. I want these kids to have opportunity to do things. Not everyone's gonna be a doctor or lawyer. You cannot throw that kind of curriculum out. I can help these kids in this neighborhood learn some things. I wanna
Okay.
teach them.
So he's talking about more, I understand what you're saying.
But let these
Education.
kids start off, whether they wanna detail a car, or whatever, if they're doing a little business, it's not a real business. They're not
Right,
parking in and out.
so, there's ways to carve this out and have a little bit of a wider discussion of what would and would not constitute as a business. If you're doing something that's more teaching, right, teaching is.
Here's another thing about this.
not-
Hold on, I'm not done. Here's another thing. Rules in this neighborhood specifically go after minorities. That has been a thing of the past. I do not want that for the future residents of this neighborhood. I don't want.
Well, hold on, no, I will agree that, certainly in the past is in the past, there is nothing about this
But if we're gonna-
particular.
right.
There's nothing about, hold on, now I'm gonna say a thing, because you said it. There is nothing about this particular slice of legislation that has any kind of racial bias.
No. That's interpretation. Who's enforcing the rules?
No, in fact,
Okay.
having a clear definition of what is meant by motor vehicle repair makes it harder to discriminate because, right, then, let's say the word painting wasn't there.
But the rule-
Wait, I'm still not done, right? Because if you're gonna make that case, I'm gonna make that case. If the word painting isn't there, then if Chuck Whitey is painting his car and the code enforcement or the officer can say, well, that's not motor vehicle maintenance. And then he sees person of color guy doing the same thing, he says, oh no, he's working on a car. So you have it in there so that you can't discriminate. That's why you have good definitions.
It's treated equally with the law.
I have seen, not only did this rule come about in the wrong way,
Okay,
I'm trying to change it to make things better.
Okay, I disagree that allowing, but a business is a business, whether it's run by a child or run by a
So no
grown.
lemonade stands? No cookies?
This isn't, we're not talking, if they're fixing cars at their lemonade stand, no, I don't want them fixing their
I
cars at their
think,
lemonade stand.
actually, real quick, let me point something out that I think both sides are missing. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I heard you say it, but not really stick it. JP, you pointed out that 4511.01 in the revised codes includes things like bicycle and lawnmower repair in it. And the reason you want to pull that out is that you don't want 4511.01 because, for instance, I can't remember the name of the kid, but I had him do my lawnmower tune-up I do remember the name. I'm not gonna advertise it in the meeting. Whose dad drove over, we put the thing in the truck, kid fixed it, came over, got his money, and we don't want to pull that out, like that or some bicycle repair and lump that in with, again, like the guy, and I will admit the guy that I went to had a yard full of cars because he'd be working on more than one at once, and so there's a reason for that.
Is it possible to reassess how we define a business, or is there a specific legal definition for the ORC or the OAC or something like that?
But specific to this use, right?
Okay.
So what we're discussing right now is this use of council.
So, real quick, JP, is that a correct summation of the reason why you don't want 4511 in there, or am I missing your point?
I want these kids to be able to have something to do. And I'll
Yeah.
take a little bit of money in the neighborhood. I want to encourage that. This is not that kind of neighborhood. This isn't the city of Columbus. No one's here working on cars 24/7. And yes, I do think we should have some sort of rule that people cannot have a shop and have a business. But at the same time, I want to encourage, when I grew up here in the neighborhood, everyone was helping everybody out. There's a guy down the street off of Woodley who used to paint Camaro in his garage. And people would encourage that. There was nothing like this. You guys proud of this? Like, honestly, you're
I
cool
don't
with
know what
that?
you're holding up, but
This.
I don't know what you're holding up, so.
Again, it's what you just
Well,
said.
hold on.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to dig in here,
Okay.
right?
Right.
First off, the
Right.
reference to 4511.
101.
101.
B.
Okay, B, okay, hold on, so I just wanna go back
Does not-
and make sure, yeah, so it is merely referencing to the definition of what a motor vehicle is.
Okay.
Right, so, and again, this is for a means of business, right? That we're saying you can't work on a motor vehicle, which means every vehicle propelled or drawn by power, other than muscular power, or power collected from overhead electric trolley lines, except motorized bicycles, so those are accepted. Electric bicycles, those aren't included. road rollers, whatever the hell those are, traction engines, right? Power shovels, power cranes, other equipment used in construction work and not designed for or employed by general highway. So I don't see your lawnmower example falling under this.
Right.
Okay.
However, at the same time, I think if you're making this case, that kid should probably go and get a permit for his business in the village.
I don't.
But that's the thing, rules are rules. Rules are
Even more
rules.
reason why we should
So,
have rules
so,
like this. This is a
if
small
I may,
community.
so right. So I understand what you're saying, but it's not, we have the home occupation business permit, and it's not it's there to protect us and them, right? And all it's gonna do is if they're a legal, if it's a real business that they're taking money, right, so you've gotta pay on that money from a tax standpoint, we wanna make sure that there's not an income tax to collect. That's one of the main reasons we have that on the books, right? So if they've got a business, and we're not responsible for how they report, but if they can file a permit and we say, yeah, you're good, then nobody can come back and say you weren't allowed to be doing that. They can hold that up to anyone out there that wants to accuse them of not following the law. And right now, I'm not seeing anything concerning, I agree with Brian, that I don't see anything in this that says I can't repair a lawnmower, right?
What is the current home occupation business fee? Is it exorbitant or
No.
what some would consider
I
excessive?
don't even know if we feed in Monroe Park.
Well, I know, and I'm very proud of that.
I don't know if we even charge, do we charge 25? We should charge
If we
25
charge
or zero.
anything, that would be what it was.
We charge 25 or zero, right?
Okay, so that's not
No.
wildly excessive, it's.
So someone could, maybe a kid wants to work on someone's car, maybe he's going to,
Well, if he wants to have a hobby, and I call it a hobby, and work on a vehicle from a hobby standpoint and
Right.
help his friend out, that's fine. But running a line of vehicles
yeah, I don't want that.
as a business is not enough people want. That's been discussed.
We have long, lengthy discussions.
Just making
in planning and
sure.
zoning.
Okay.
Right, that's what this refers to. Doesn't outlaw all these things.
Now, interestingly enough, I don't know that having a detailing thing would be covered on this.
That's it.
So that's.
As I read, servicing, repairing, assembling, wrecking, modifying,
Yeah, the detailing.
restoring, painting, or otherwise maybe under otherwise
Or
working.
I don't believe that the auto detailing businesses was meant to be controlled under this particular provision.
Right.
Mhm.
I think the intentions around, the specific provisions around how many cars you can have parked there for your business,
Yeah,
that's.
no, I'm just pointing out what I think this does or does not say.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna argue over should we have it or not, we should know what it says exactly
Sure.
and what it doesn't say.
Right.
So for instance, like that 4501 apparently is just defining what a motor vehicle is. Oh, and by the way, just in case people don't know, remember, if your if your gas powered even scooter is less than 150 cc's, you're allowed to park it on a sidewalk as long as it doesn't impede traffic.
Alright, then I retract my statement.
Okay.
I'm actually going through it too, so.
Which is,
Okay, then I have one for the rewrite.
Uh-oh.
And I didn't look clearly, but can we have something that explicitly states you need a permit for a driveway so we can stop hearing that as an argument?
Yes, we'll write
complaint?
something in there.
We just need, I don't care if it's, subsection,
So,
whatever,
right.
and I need a sentence.
So we
People need permits for driveways.
So, understood. So,
Can I clarify that? Only if you're repairing your driveway in the same manner as that, you should not have to get a permit. And if you change it, then a permit.
but then you put that in the code. You do not need a permit if just replacing an existing driveway with the same.
Replacing the
Specification,
light, maybe
yes.
if you're changing the material, so if I go from
Concrete.
concrete to asphalt, because when my driveway's due, it's, 5 times more, it'll be 50 grand for me to replace my driveway with concrete, but it'll be 10 grand for me to do it in asphalt. Guess which one I'm probably gonna do? I'll need a permit for that.
I think part of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you do the driveway, number one, they're working in the street, and if it doesn't, I'm gonna use the word butt up, or if they don't do it accurately,
But is a word.
yeah, so, I think there's reasons as to, we've talked about this before, but I think there's reasons why, whether you're replacing it for exact, like with a roof, if you're replacing it exact, So I think there's still, you're working in the roadway, I'm not here to debate either or, I'm saying why I feel like it has been done in the past was because you are working in the right of way.
So, if I may say, I can clear it all up.
So clear that up.
Right, please. So, we require a driveway permit. Now, permits, we don't need explicit code at any point in time administratively to require a permit. We can require a free permit for about anything under the sun that the administration approves. And Jesse can opine on that if you have a question about the next thing. So, there's that. Now, to make things easier so you don't have to listen to certain residents who bemoan that fact, right? We can put it explicitly in the code. That's easy to do, happy to do it. But it all does go back to aprons, which we can explicitly control the right of way. We want to make sure people line it up, do their construction correctly, and that's one of the primary reasons behind requiring a permit, whether it's an apron, a driveway, the whole shebang, right?
I do think if there's work in the apron of any variety, I kind of feel like we would want a permit just to control that the apron in particular is done correctly.
And for the record, we do have some issues that was over on, I believe it was Maplewood, if I'm not mistaken there. We had some issues with some of the aprons and some of the different things, and this is from way back when, that's now causing problem.
Right.
So, and they weren't done to, in my opinion, probably a standard.
What about sidewalks?
We also refer to aprons. Sidewalks are already in there.
Yeah, the sidewalks, trust me, we went over that for a long time.
3 years.
Yeah,
Feels
that
like
was,
it.
sidewalks were talked about.
Yeah, so there's sidewalk code, and we do have standards that we apply whether we have an apron with a sidewalk or without a sidewalk, for example. So we use compasses.
Yeah.
What is it called from your front door to your driveway? Is that called a walkway?
That's just a walkway, yeah.
So there's no permit for that?
No, that's like a patio. I mean, if somebody wanted to put in a lot of walkway, not just repaired, we would just call it a patio.
So I think the only thing that would be, if it, depending on their non-permeable coverage, like if they were right on the edge of their non-permeable coverage already, they might need a variance to expand that. Like if my walk from my front door to Lakewood is just those stupid stones, right? Well, we allow, 30% non-permeable coverage?
Total coverage.
Right, so if I'm already at 29% of my total non-permeable coverage, which I might be because I actually have more concrete than most people realize, and I decide I want to put a concrete walk out to Lakewood, I might need to come for a variance.
You're telling on himself.
And I'm never going to do that because I never go out that way, so.
You really do, I've never seen it.
No, I mean, the only time that door is used is to pick up FedEx packages that get left.
Pick up deliveries, and there's one neighbor who is on Lakewood who goes
Yes.
out that way.
There's one neighbor who comes in and out of the house that way, because it's much
Right.
means not having to walk around the heel.
Cuts her walking.
Definitions as far as retaining walls?
We would treat, so we get a wall, yeah, so I think when we talk about fences, if you go under there, I know we put something in specifically for different, we did have some discussion on different wall materials, right? So there was a big discussion on no cinder blocks, right? So, but other materials can be used to make wall. Quite frankly, that's expensive, so when they start getting time, and that's somebody's money, if they want to make it beautiful brick, that's on them versus the fence. But yes, it's allowed.
I think he means retaining wall, like, again, if I were.
Like my driveway.
My front yard is elevated from Lakewood,
Right.
so if we were to ever mandate sidewalks, I
Yeah.
had to put a sidewalk in there, I would need to put a.
Yeah, in fact, my driveway, my neighbor's property on the right is 3.5 feet higher than my driveway. So I have a wall on the side there.
So retaining walls are one of those things that come into play when we deal with grading changes or not to alter, people have to do them. I mean, if they start changing the grade, we're gonna be like, what are you doing? Right? I mean, because we can require them not to sheet tons of water into their neighbor's property or control that and stuff. We have the ability to do that. If they had to put a retaining wall in, then I and the engineers review it and they go forth and process the permit. Right? But that would be part of a large project. And that usually deals with the grade alteration.
All right, everyone, I'm gonna go to a quick sum up here. No problems with legislation tonight being passed the way they've been requested. And I'm doing this because I'm not trying to cut off conversation. We have 5 minutes before the next meeting. We have to go down to the next location. We are not obviously finished with code at all. I will say, Councilperson Martin, if you feel like your point wasn't quite made, or you want, there will be time in the I'm just saying, I'm not gonna put in my sum up, and we said JP's thing is wrong and we're moving on. It's still out there, it's still obviously up to you. Not up to you, but up to you to bring up again, up to all of us to put in or not.
Plenty of meetings left, which is perfectly good, so we'll
Yeah.
have a few more discussions on legislative, plenty of time to discuss them at the council meetings as well.
And with that, I am gonna motion to adjourn. We stand adjourned, see everyone downstairs in a few minutes.